Most people think rotating their IP constantly is what keeps them safe. They hit a new IP every few minutes, every login, every time they feel nervous, and they believe each fresh IP is one more layer of protection. On a real mobile device, that habit can do the exact opposite. It can be the thing that gets the account flagged. I run a real cloud phone farm in Singapore. Real physical Android phones sitting on dedicated hardware, each one on its own Singapore mobile carrier IP from cloudf.one or StarHub. I watch what happens to accounts that rotate too much, and I watch what happens to accounts that sit still on one stable IP. So let me walk you through how mobile IP rotation actually works on a cloud phone. When you genuinely want a fresh IP, and when reaching for that button is a mistake. First, what a mobile IP even is. When a phone connects to a cellular network, the carrier hands it an address. That address is not yours forever. It belongs to a big shared pool that the carrier rotates among thousands of real customers. The woman checking Instagram on the train and the man scrolling TikTok in a cafe might be sharing the same range your phone is on. That shared, ordinary residential quality is exactly what makes a mobile IP valuable. Platforms know real humans live behind these addresses, so they are slow and careful about banning them. There is one more thing worth knowing about how these addresses behave. A mobile IP is dynamic by nature. The carrier can reassign it on its own schedule, and an address you had this morning might belong to someone else by tonight. That is normal, and it is part of why mobile IPs look so human. But it also means the address itself is not a permanent identity. What platforms really track is the combination of the device, the behavior, and the network over time. The IP is one signal among several, which is exactly why thrashing it around does not buy you the safety people imagine. Now, what does rotation mean on a real device? On a real phone, you cannot just pick a new IP out of thin air the way a data center proxy does. You have to make the carrier hand you a different one. That means dropping the cellular connection and bringing it back up, and hoping the carrier assigns you a new address from the pool. Sometimes you get a fresh IP, sometimes the carrier hands you back the same one. It is a real network event on real hardware, not a software trick. Contrast that with how a data center proxy works, because the difference is the whole point. A data center service has a giant block of addresses it owns outright, and it can swap you to a new one instantly as many times as you like. That sounds convenient until you realize platforms can see those blocks coming a mile away. A real carrier renegotiation is slower and messier, but the address you land on is indistinguishable from an ordinary person's phone, because it came from the same pool an ordinary person draws from. This is the first thing to understand. A fresh mobile IP is a real renegotiation with a real carrier. It is not instant, it is not guaranteed to be different, and it is not free of consequences. That is why you should treat rotation as a tool you reach for on purpose, not a reflex. So when do you actually want a fresh IP? There are a few clear cases. When you are about to set up a brand new account that has nothing to do with any other account you run, a clean IP with no baggage is a good start. When an IP has genuinely gone bad, say a target has soft blocked it, and you keep hitting CAPTCHAs or rate limits, a new IP can clear that. And when you are deliberately separating two pieces of work that should never look related, a fresh IP helps keep them apart. Now the part most people get wrong. When should you not rotate? The big one is mid-session on a logged-in account. If you are signed into an Instagram or TikTok or WhatsApp account and everything is working, do not rotate the IP underneath it. Think about how this looks from the platform side. You logged in from a single address in Singapore. You have been browsing happily, and then suddenly the same session is coming from a completely different IP to a risk engine that looks like an account takeover. That is precisely the pattern that triggers a security check, a forced logout, or a ban. Here is the rule I tell everyone. One account, one stable IP. Real people do not teleport across the network every 10 minutes. Real people stay on one connection for hours, days, weeks. If you want your account to look like a real person, it has to behave like one, and that means staying put on a consistent IP most of the time. Rotation is the exception, not the routine. Think about your own phone for a second. You do not change your network identity on purpose. You wake up, you check your apps from home, you commute, you sit at your desk, and your phone quietly stays on the same carrier connection through most of it. Your accounts trust that phone because it is boring and consistent. That boring consistency is the thing you are trying to reproduce. Every time you rotate without a reason, you are throwing away the very signal you want to build. Let me give you the methods you actually have on a real cloud phone, from gentlest to most drastic. Method 1 is the airplane mode toggle. This is the simplest way to ask the carrier for a new IP. You switch airplane mode on, which drops the cellular connection completely. You wait a few seconds, then you switch it off. The phone reconnects to the network and renegotiates its data session. A lot of the time, the carrier hands back a different IP from the pool. It is quick, it is gentle on the hardware, and it mimics something a real person actually does, like stepping into a lift or a tunnel and coming back. A couple of things to know about the airplane mode method. It is not guaranteed. Carriers will sometimes give you the same address back, especially if you toggle quickly. So always check your IP afterward to confirm it actually changed, and give it a moment. The data session takes a few seconds to come back up, and if you start firing requests before it is stable, you will just get connection errors. Method 2 is requesting a new IP or a reassign through the platform you are using. Instead of fiddling with the phone settings by hand, you ask the system to renegotiate the connection for you. On a managed cloud phone setup, there is usually a clean way to trigger this, a button or an action that forces the carrier session to reset and pull a new address. This is the same underlying event as the airplane mode toggle. The connection drops and comes back, but it is done cleanly and you get told whether the IP actually changed. The advantage of a proper reassign is control and feedback. You are not guessing. The system tells you the old IP and the new IP, so you know the rotation worked. If the carrier handed back the same address, you know to try again rather than carrying on and assuming you are on something fresh. Method 3 is the full reset. This is the heaviest option and you should only reach for it when the lighter methods are not enough. A full reset means rebooting the device, or in some cases more, to force the cellular modem to completely renegotiate from scratch. This is what you do when a connection has gotten stuck, when the modem is wedged and airplane mode is not clearing it, or when you genuinely want to start fresh on that device. It takes longer, it interrupts whatever was running, and you should not lean on it as a casual rotation method. The reason to be sparing with the full reset is simple. It is disruptive and it is slow. If you find yourself rebooting a phone every hour just to get a new IP, something is wrong with your approach, not your hardware. Step back and ask whether you actually need to be rotating that much in the first place. Most of the time, the answer is no. So how does cloudf.one handle all of this? Every phone we run is a real physical Android device in Singapore, and every device has its own persistent Singapore mobile carrier IP from Singtel, M1 or StarHub. That IP is stable by default. It stays with the phone, which is exactly what you want for a logged-in account that needs to look like a real settled user. You are not sharing that address with strangers, and it is not jumping around behind your back. When you do want a fresh IP, you can trigger a clean reassign on the device. The carrier session renegotiates and you get a new mobile address from the real pool, and you can confirm the change, so you get the best of both. A stable IP to live on, and a deliberate, verifiable way to rotate when there is a real reason to. No data center addresses, no emulator, no shortcuts. Just a real phone on a real carrier, the way an ordinary person's phone behaves. Now let me hammer the big mistakes, because avoiding these matters more than any single method. The first mistake is rotating too often. It feels safe. It is not. An IP that changes every few minutes is not what a real person looks like. Real phones hold an address for a long time. Constant rotation is a fingerprint of automation, and it stands out. The more you rotate, the more you look like exactly the kind of activity platforms are built to catch. The second mistake, the worst one, is rotating mid-session on a logged-in account. I said it earlier, and I will say it again because people keep doing it. Once you are logged in and working, leave the IP alone. Changing it underneath a live session is the single fastest way to trigger a security review. If you must get a fresh IP for an account, do it before you log in, not in the middle of your work. The third mistake is not verifying that the rotation actually worked. You toggle airplane mode. You assume you have a new IP. You carry on, and you are actually on the same address as before. Or worse, you assume you are still on your nice clean IP when the carrier silently moved you. Always check. Know what IP you are on before and after, especially around anything sensitive. The fourth mistake is spreading one account across many IPs or piling many accounts onto one IP. Both link things that should stay separate. One account should live on one stable IP. Many accounts should each have their own device and their own IP. Mixing those up is how platforms connect accounts you wanted kept apart. So here is the whole thing in one breath. A mobile IP is a real carrier address from a shared human pool, and that is its value. Rotation on a real phone is a real network event, gentle with airplane mode, clean with a proper reassign, heavy with a full reset. You rotate on purpose, before a fresh start, or when an IP has truly gone bad, and you stay put the rest of the time. One account, one stable IP, and you always verify the change. If you want to try this on a real device, there is a free 48-hour trial on the site. Spin up a real Singapore phone on a real Singtel, M1 or StarHub mobile IP, see how a stable address behaves, and trigger a clean reassign yourself when you want a fresh one. It costs nothing to try, and a couple of days on a real device tells you more than any explainer can. If this helped, subscribe, because the next one goes deeper into keeping one account safe on one stable IP over the long haul, the part that actually keeps accounts alive. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.